Good morning. Welcome to Morning Moments. I'm so glad that you came to join us today. I have an actor that's been involved with the Princess Cut films, and several folks I've interviewed has been involved with the Princess Cut films. He's done other things. It's been a delight to get to know Joseph Gray. Welcome to Morning Moments.
Hi, thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks for having
And
me.
not too far from me, I'm in Virginia Beach, and you're here down just in the state over in North Carolina.
Yes,
Tell
sir.
me about yourself. What do you do, and why do you do it?
So the more this progresses, I consider myself a little bit more of a filmmaker because I started out acting, but I've done some writing and some producing, and I actually just got hired to direct my first piece. I've kind of co-directed, but I've never actually been just hired, paid, here, you take the helm and lead this until just recently. So I'm super excited about that project coming up in April. Can't seem to get that off my mind. So if I'm frazzled, it's probably because I'm thinking about that script and how to bring it to life on camera. But so primarily acting is what I've done though. Yeah, and the reason why I do it, it's multifaceted, I would say. We spoke just to chatted a little bit earlier about how I read The Purpose Driven Life numerous times when I was going through a part of my life trying to figure out what I should do. What was a calling and a purpose versus just an interest. So that was a multi-year process of thinking about it, praying about it, seeking wise counsel, and reading that book. And it talks about your shape, your spiritual gifts, your heart, your abilities, your personality, and your experiences, and how that can help guide what you should be doing. And this whole filmmaking thing was nowhere on my radar at all growing up. I didn't have friends or family. I didn't know anything about the industry, how to get into it, what it meant. I just felt like it's something that I should pursue. And so after many years of considering and thinking about it and praying about it, I started going in that direction. Yeah, so my whole thing, I worked a little bit in ministry as well with sports leagues because sports were my thing in the past. So I tried to meld. My work, if you will, vocation, and what I'm doing with purpose and with calling. And I know that can be done a myriad of different ways. You can do all to the glory of God. Whatever you do can be for His glory and to serve Him, and love others. But I don't know. I guess I saw many times in other people how it seemed to be a stark contrast. Like, this is my work, this is my church or my ministry. And so with working with the sports leagues through church, where we would minister to kids, I felt like those were bringing those two worlds together. And then working in this industry, I feel like I can really bring those together. Not that every production that I do is a faith-based production. I've done several movies and films and then TV shows, commercials, things that were totally unrelated or void of any intrinsic faith element. But my true passion is, I'm hopeful that I can be some sort of light, not say that in an arrogant way. Hopefully I can help point people to Jesus and give Him praise and let other people know how much I love Him and I'm grateful for Him, no matter what setting I'm in. But my real passion is wanting to make projects that have biblical themes. All truth is God's truth. So themes of redemption, of reconciliation, of forgiveness, of mercy, of hope, all these things. Maybe some in a more explicit gospel-centered message, maybe some that are much more of just a parable, is the parable that Jesus told to illustrate a point in a gripping and captivating way to really communicate something and have people think about it. And maybe it doesn't, maybe that particular project doesn't have a sermon in it. It is just the parable. It's the storytelling. So that's why I do what I do and what my goal is. And with this project that I'm directing and some other things that I'm involved in writing and producing, is really storytelling that either more implicitly or explicitly points people to God.
It's the story. I like the statement that says, preach the gospel and if necessary, use words. And that's part of what we do every day. Our work that we do, not just acting, but our work that we do. Are we
Hmm.
still preaching and sharing it and being? God didn't call us to witness, although we can witness, but He called us to be a witness, and we're a
Mm.
witness. Sometimes and I've heard this with actors too, that says in those non-faith-based movies, they have a chance to share Christ in so many different ways behind the scenes to other
Hmm.
people when you're waiting to be on. And
Hmm.
it's God
Yeah.
puts you at the right place at the right time sometimes.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to do that, and I'm not patting myself on the back saying like, oh, I go around screaming from the rooftops, preaching the gospel to everyone I encounter, because that's not the case. I'm sure there's opportunities that I should have stepped up and said something where I didn't, and I regret those. But I have been fortunate to be in several situations on those types of sets, commercials, TVs, film, whatever, where I did get the opportunity to share the gospel with people on numerous occasions. So um, who knows what the fruit of that will be, if anything? But I know God is good, and He He takes good care of us, whether or not we do a great attempt or a feeble attempt or whatever. So I know He's faithful.
Yeah, if and I like what you said. It's not just my work, but everything I do. When you realize that we don't turn on and off God's purpose in our life, work versus
Hmm.
home. Our purpose for God that God has for us is to live the life no matter what we do and where we're at. And
Hmm.
it's just part of being us, not just the things that we do.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's the goal.
Yeah.
um, we're incredibly forgetful creatures, aren't we? Very distracted, very easily distracted and forgetful. So, um,
And it sounds
but
like the basis of what's happening is that the story. Jesus was a storyteller,
mm,
and he just loved telling the story. And it's so nice to be, and you've been in front of the camera now, being a
mhm.
director behind the scenes. You're heading in that direction, but maybe to fulfill a different aspect of that story, being able to guide it and orchestrate it so people can get the message.
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes from my mom. She was very, in hindsight, as a teenager, uh, if you could go back and fix a lot of things you did as a teenager, right? As a teenager, I think, oh, my mom is ridiculous and she's embarrassing or whatever. But she was very animated with her storytelling. She told a good story, actually. In hindsight, she told a good joke and she told good stories, and she drew people in, and she would kind of act it out, and she would draw people into building this world of what she's recounting the story. Um, and I think I got a lot of that from her. And she was an English teacher, and I always loved words. And then my grandmother was, she always had the Scrabble board. Actually got it. I don't know if you can see it. I got the old school Scrabble board back there.
Yes.
That's the old one we used to play with my grandma on the Lazy Susan. We could turn it around. And so anyway, I love words and communication, and I was fascinated by that and vocabulary. Not that mine's great, but it at least interested me a lot. And like I said, I was never a theater kid or a drama person per se growing up. That was never part of my life. But movies did impact me. It's just, powerful movies made me walk away thinking. I would be asking questions, and I would consider things, and they'd inspire me. I wanted to like improve relationships. I wanted to live a different way. I wanted to ask questions or get answers, or whatever the case was. So subconsciously, that was obviously affecting me years ago, even though I didn't know anything about it. And so, yeah, now I want to take that and focus on the storytelling. And I think it's a good thing. Christian media has come a long way, versus 10 or 15 years ago, and things are continuing to progress and advance. And you've got people that fall into different, I don't know, different troops or different categories of what that does look like, or should look like, or needs to look like. I think there's a home for a lot of variation. I think it's a
Yeah.
great thing that I have a daughter who's 11, so I super appreciated the family friendly stuff, the stuff that was appropriate that you could watch with a child and be entertaining to adult and a kid without necessarily going places that was not age appropriate. Um, and there's stuff, some people say some of the stuff preaches to the choir, and I might have even been guilty of saying that years ago, like, oh, well, just preaching to the choir. Well, I think there's a certain home for that too. Some people in the church
Yeah.
need to hear the gospel repeatedly and hear that message to draw them back in. And we need entertainment that or inspiration that is also wholesome and faith-based. But I think there's a gap missing, and it's hard because of the industry. The industry's a monster, right? With the money making and the business side of it. There's no proven model for a Christian movie that's not PG.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping in the future that there is more exploration, not to get racy or glorify violence or gore or language or any of these things, but I don't know. I feel like maybe there is a maybe there's a PG-13 world for a faith-based film that examines topics, but also, I mean, look at the Bible. I mean, you got stakes driving through people's heads. We got women, children, and animals, and the entire civilization, entire nations being destroyed. If depending on, there's a bunch of crazy. There's incest. There's rape. There's, what I'm saying. It's not a PG book. So I feel like maybe there's in the future a realm where we can examine a little bit more real to life, hard, difficult topics that are not appropriate for a 7-year-old, but are also glorifying God and His truths.
I could see that. I was interviewing a filmmaker, and he had his film behind him going just as I was interviewing, and there was a scene. It was a prison scene, and somebody was getting beat up, and the guy got real bloody. And he goes, "Whoa, I'm so sorry about showing that here in the interview." I go, "No, that was real. That was real." And there are certain things that maybe that a realism that needs to take place. Sometimes we want God to speak the same way through the years and through the ages. But I'm also reminded that God spoke to Moses in a burning bush, but I don't ever see again where he ever used a burning bush. That was the one and only time. And
right.
so God chooses sometimes that venue in the area that he speaks, and it may not be for you, but it really was important for Moses to hear it through a burning bush. And so that's some valid points, and I think we're in a good change, and be open to what God has for each and every one of us.
Yeah.
And
again, I'm not.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just said again, I'm not against any of it. Like, I think there's homes for all of it. I think it's good to have. And again, I would get so excited when I could see a movie that had good themes, true to reality, entertained me, inspired me, and I could also watch it with my young daughter. Like, that was the whole reason I got involved with Princess Cut in the first place, the very first one, because I had a young daughter. I'm like, here's a message I can get behind. So I'm not demeaning family-friendly stuff or preaching to the choir stuff. I say that in quotation marks because I'm not saying that in a derogatory manner, but that's how some people might categorize things. But I think there's room for all of it. And so Absolutely. I hope to more explore, some of my favorite films are like Hacksaw Ridge. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Have you seen that film?
Yeah.
Okay. Based on a true story. An amazing example of a man sticking to his convictions and relying on the Lord, trusting in God when all seemed lost. It's an amazing story. That movie was not a PG movie. It shows some aspects of war and some aspects of how this guy got treated in the face of his own persecution. But anyway, movies like that obviously that's a Hollywood film. Mel Gibson, you got Andrew Garfield, Vince Vaughn, all these big names in it. But anyway, maybe there's room for that in a faith-based crowd.
Well,
and
Joseph,
they could admit it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Joseph, I really do thank you for coming to Morning Moments. I'm going to put down below in the comment section how the films that you've done, ones that you're in your future projects with, and also for ways people get a hold of you in the industry to be able to open doors for you. I want you to continue to pass this interview on to other people if it's blessed you.
Okay.
But also for those that's listening, I want you to also do something for me when this is
Sure.
over, I want you to stop and pray for Joseph Gray, that God would continue to have his hand upon him, and that Joseph would also continue to listen to what his purpose is, because God's got a plan, purpose, and hope for him as well. He's got a plan, purpose, and hope for you. And I want to thank you, Joseph, for joining me. And I also want to thank my audience for joining us for Morning Moments. God bless you. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.